Well, hello and welcome everybody. Stacey Murphy here. This is the Fantastical Winter Garden Adventure. 5 days of Fantastical Winter Garden Adventure. And if you're here, what I know about you is that you love fresh food, that you love the taste of it, the deliciousness of it, that you love to grow it yourself, that it tastes better when it's homegrown because you have the pride of growing it yourself. You know exactly what's in your food. There's no pesticides, no chemicals, no any of that stuff because you're growing it yourself. And you feel the vitality of your own food, your health and your prosperity growing, and the longevity, the impact of your long-term health as you're growing your own food is just phenomenal, right? So I know that about you. The part that we're adding today, have you noticed the costume? Have you noticed the costume yet? This is the Fantastical Winter Garden Adventure. And today and the next 4 days after today is about adding one more component to your gardening. So we're talking about winter gardens, and we're talking about specifically fantastical winter gardens, that part of your spirit, that part of your soul that is so in love with growing food, with nature, with playing with plants, trusting that the water is doing its job, being outside in the sun, or even being indoors in your house, that part of your spirit and your soul that knows that there's something absolutely magical about growing your own food. So that's what we're going to focus on for the next 5 days. And we're going to focus on how a single seed can show you the entire joy of gardening all in one little seed, what one little seed can mean for you and your world. And the reason why we're hosting this is that so many times I hear the story that, well, Stacey, it's cold where I am, or it's snowing, or it's raining, or it's icy, or I'm under 2 feet of snow, or it's just not the right time for me to get started. And here's what I would say to anybody in the world, wherever you live: there's always something you can grow, no matter what time of year it is. And when you tap into the fantastical world of plants and you figure out exactly what they need to thrive, no matter where you are, you can create a thriving ecosystem for them. So that's what we're tapping into today. This is the place where you get to focus on you and your spirit and your soul and your plants and the joy of gardening. And that little bit of inner peace that you feel when you're gardening, that has ripple effects into the world that you can't even quantify. So, and let's let our joy and our excitement about plants and that inner peace ripple out into the world and have an effect and make our days a better place, and make our families a better place, make our communities a better place. And by the way, the earth a better place for everything that we're doing as well. All right, so that's what we're all about in this 5-day adventure. I'm going to share some slides with you guys today. And today is going to be, and that is the wrong slide to start with. So today is going to be a little bit longer than the rest of the days. You can expect to be here for 20 minutes typically for these days. Today might be a little bit longer because I wanted to do a little intro to like 10:30 Pacific. Plan to carve out about 20 to 30 minutes a day for this. And by the end of this 5 days, you're going to actually be eating food that you grew here. So you're going to see the fantastical world of winter gardening in just 5 days from seed to plate. And we're going to go through day 1, Supercalifragilistic Seeds, day 2, Wonderful Water, day 3, Magical Micro Heroes. Day 4 is my favorite. It's all about Beautiful You. And day 5 is about Loop-de-loos. So the theme for this fantastical winter garden is really looking at all this through the lens of characters that we know and love and how we can take on those same characters. So Mary Poppins is today's theme. And one of the things that Mary Poppins says, and if you've seen the movie, give a shout out, what's your favorite part about Mary Poppins? Tell me your favorite thing about Mary Poppins. She says, anything can happen if you let it. So that's what this 5 days is about, is allowing things to happen. Martin Luther King says, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. And this is a moment for you to say, all right, I'm taking the first step, and let's see where this 5 days takes us. And I'm going to share in a moment a story about what happened for me to share with you why what you think might happen might not be what actually happens in the next 5 days. So let's do this right now. I want to tap into what a fantastical winter garden might mean for you. All right. So I want you to just take a moment and close your eyes for a minute and take a deep breath with me. Settle in. And then take one more deep breath. And just ground into your seat or wherever you're standing, ground into the earth. The earth is so full of wisdom. And take one more deep breath and then release any thoughts, compost them back into the earth. We all know that Mother Earth takes everything and composts it into the next generation. So release all those thoughts. And just for a moment, I want you to imagine in front of you a snow globe, an empty snow globe for now. And I want you to imagine, I invite you to think about a magical seed. And it can look any way that you want. Imagine your magical seed. What color is it? How big is it? What texture is it? And put it into that snow globe that's in front of you, your specific snow globe. And now imagine for a moment that your snow globe is now full of water, blessed water, the water of life. So your seed is now sitting in all of this water. Imagine how much love it's receiving from all of this water. And now for a moment, imagine that there's a little bit of even that those snow particles are in there. Put that magical fairy dust in that snow globe, all right? Put that in there as well. What does it look like for you? Is it all sparkly, different colors? Is it pink? Is it purple? Is it green? Is it every color of the rainbow? Is it iridescent? What color is it? And now I want you to take your snow globe and I want you to give it a shake. Give it a shake and see all that magic dust and your seed kind of floating around in that magic globe. And then put it down in front of you. And take a moment to send some love to this seed. Let it know that you know that seed has everything you want in it. It has the exact fantastical winter garden that you imagine. Even if you can't see what you want, it knows exactly what you want, and it's going to grow into the fantastical winter garden that you want for you. And all that water's in there nourishing it, and the fairy dust of that snow is going to help make it grow over the next 5 days. And now just for a moment, I want you to think about this snow globe in front of you. And now zoom out to the whole earth. And we're going to give a blessing to your seed and to everybody else's seed in their snow globes, and also just to the world. So put your hands out to your snow globe. And I want you to see your snow globe with all that dust on the inside of your snow globe that's raining down, those little glitters raining down on your seed. And bless the water, bless the seed, bless the snow globe for being the container that's going to hold all of this for you. And take a moment to also bless everybody else's snow globes out there, their magical gardens. And I invite you to take a moment to bless now the earth, this wonderful earth that we're on, this beautiful rock in the middle of the universe, the soil that's underneath our feet with all of the invisible microbes, the water that flows across this planet, and all the plants that are providing all of our air for us. And I want you to bless all the other people on the face of the planet too. And know that your magic snow globe right now with your magic seed, it's being blessed by everybody else too. Your magical winter garden. All right, let's come back now and open our eyes. I would love to have you just think about what came up for you. Was there any visualizations that came up? And there's a workbook that goes along with this 5-day adventure. There's a notebook where you can write down what you saw. If you saw anything specific about your fantastical winter garden, whatever it looked like for you, however it felt for you, if it had a color, if it had a feeling, write that down. And we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about supercalifragilistic seeds. And you just planted a supercalifragilistic seed in this moment. Even if you don't know what it's going to yield, what it's going to look like at the end of this 5 days, you just planted a seed. All right. Fantasy is hardly an escape from reality. It's a way of understanding it. This is quotes from science, scientific people that understand that fantasy is a way of understanding reality. So you just planted a magical seed. And I want to share with you the 5 things that can kill your magic garden before it starts. And to do that, I just want to tell you a really quick story about a moment that I had that almost killed my winter fantasy garden. So years ago, I was in Brooklyn. I was like a lot of people, I was going to work every day in a hustle, busy. I would come home. I wanted fresh food. I wasn't growing my own food. I didn't even have a yard. I had a small studio apartment. And I kept telling friends, like, I want a garden. I want a garden. I kept looking for a garden. And it was really a girlfriend of mine who said, Stacy, you keep talking about how you want a garden. Why don't you just start an indoor garden of your own? All you need is a couple of shelves and some grow lamps and a little bit of seeds, and you could do this. And I don't know why I hadn't thought about it sooner. It's kind of crazy that the thought didn't even occur to me. But I went out and I got the supplies. It was pretty easy to get started. And I was growing salad all winter long for myself. From just 2 trays, I was growing salad all winter long. Now, if that's not fantastical enough and I got to grow exactly what I wanted. So the flavors were amazing. If that's not fantastic enough, what I didn't realize, and this is the big piece, I was suffering from seasonal depression and I didn't even know it. And by caring for this winter garden, by eating these things and the delicious flavors, having these grow lamps in my house with full spectrum lights, I didn't even realize I had seasonal depression. And I felt great every day. People were telling me, you're glowing, what's going on? And I thought it was just the garden, like that the food was there, but it was more than that. And so what I hope for you is that you're going to discover in the process of thinking about a fantastical winter garden of yourself, and in the next 5 days where you're going to sprout some seeds and actually eat them at the end. By going through this process, you start to see that something else emerges. Your spirit, something in your soul starts to emerge. Something in your spirit starts to emerge. Something in the connection to plants starts to emerge where you realize this is a lifestyle that you can do anywhere, anytime. All right. That is what I hope that you realize by the end of this. So I grew little trays of salad mixes. So I want to share with you 5 ways that you can kill your winter garden before you even get started. Here's this crazy girl wearing like a unicorn getup telling me that I'm going to have a fantastical winter garden. What the heck does she know? So 5 ways that you can kill your winter garden before you ever get started. The first one is overthinking. So this happens for so many people. We want to do something and then our brain kicks into gear about like, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And then basically we don't get started because we're in our head. And that was me when I thought I had to be growing outside. So my friend interrupted that and said, why don't you just have an indoor garden, like a small indoor garden? So the antidote to that is to have an open mind. So I'm inviting you to keep an open mind throughout this, to be aware that yes, in the next 5 days, we're going to be sprouting some lentils and cooking them and eating them. There's far more magic than you realize that's available for you here. So keep an open mind without the thinking brain coming in and chattering a bit. So keeping an open mind. The second thing that might kill your garden before you ever get started, I wanted to share what Thomas Edison can tell us about a fantastical winter garden. So when he created a light bulb, people told him it was a fairy tale. Isn't that amazing? Something that revolutionized the entire world, the light bulb, gave us all light to see any time of day. And people said, that's never going to happen. That's a fairy tale. So what happens in this moment is, this is somebody who believed in his heart that he had a magic solution. And so I encourage you in these moments, if you're planning too far ahead, Edison wasn't planning, like he didn't say, I'm going to change the world. He said, let's light up this one spot. Now let's light up this one city. And he grew from there. So the second thing that can kill your winter garden before you get started is planning too far in advance. Yes, Thomas Edison changed the world, but he did it with a first light bulb. He started there. So the antidote to planning too far ahead, and I'm showing a slide here of one of my clients who's growing okra and black-eyed peas indoors. This okra plant is all the way to the ceiling and fruiting from a pot that's this big. And the reason why it's possible is she had an open heart. She also has black-eyed peas growing and fruiting inside from little tiny containers. Now, this is a big garden. You don't have to grow this big. I grew a little tiny salad, but this is another opportunity. Whatever's in your heart, if you do it step by step, you can get there. So keeping an open heart to your vision and keeping it alive, remember that little seed in your snow globe is telling you what it wants, and trust it. Go with your heart. Go with whatever's in your heart. It could be outdoors, right? Under the snow. We could be growing. You can't necessarily plant in the snow and get these kind of results, but this is something that you can do for another season. So let's talk a couple of tips about supercalifragilistic seeds, just so you understand how magical seeds are just by themselves. And then we'll get into your what you're going to do tonight. You're going to start your lentil process. So supercalifragilistic seeds. Isn't this amazing? This pomegranate is such a beauty of fertility. So a couple of things that I realized when I started understanding seeds is how magical they are. What's inside of a seed? Think about this for a minute. What's inside of the seed is everything that plant needs to thrive and to produce the next generation. It's got all of the DNA in there for generations and generations and generations of plants, for food, for hundreds of people. It's got the ability in each one of these plants to grow so many more seeds, feeding so many more people. And here's the interesting thing, is it's got a roadmap. So this DNA that's in these seeds, it's not just that it's a plant. It actually knows exactly what to do. It's programmed. Nobody's telling it what to do. It knows exactly what to do. So as a steward of these seeds, just like with our snow globe, when we put our magic seed in our snow globe, we're trusting that it's going to unfold in the most magical, perfect way if we're a good steward for that seed. So I just want to give you a couple to know what a seed is, some typical facts about seeds that people might not know that actually help them grow food. So one of the things that helps people grow food is knowing that there are some seeds that are monocots and some seeds that are dicots. And the difference between the two is that a monocot will sprout one leaf, mono, and a dicot will sprout two leaves when it pops out of the ground. And within these different distinctions, monocot and dicot, one of the things I want you to pay close attention to is what's called the cotyledon. The cotyledon is kind of like, it's the holder of all of the sap and juice of life that's going to nurture this seed in its initial phase of sprouting. This little cotyledon has everything this seed needs to sprout. This is what allows the seed to do all the work. This cotyledon is like the magic sauce in there, all right? And when you're growing food, one of the things that's important to know is, and when you're seed starting and everything else, the cotyledon can either pop out above ground or below ground. Most pop out above ground for most vegetables. So when people are talking about first true leaves of a plant, You want to know if it's a cotyledon or really a true leaf. So these are just some interesting facts about seeds to get you started. I'm not going to go deep into the details here. But one of the things that I think is so interesting, we're going to talk about lentils today, and you're going to get started here with sprouting some lentils in just a moment. So lentils are different than a lot of other vegetables. Most vegetables have their cotyledon sprout above ground, but lentils like to sprout that cotyledon below ground. It protects it from frost, wind, erosion, and insects. So isn't that amazing that the plant knows what it needs? And the reason why lentils do this is that they like to grow in cooler climates, which is why we picked them for the Fantastical Winter Garden Adventure, because for a lot of you, it's cold out. And the cool thing is once a seed sprouts, I like to think about these Mary Poppins quotes, there's no place to go but up. Once a seed sprouts, going up, right? So before we do the lentils, I just want to finish up the 5 things that could kill this magical winter garden before you get started. And then you're going to get started with these lentils. So the third thing that can stop you with your fantastical winter garden is, what if people think I'm weird? Well, here's my answer to that. Tomatoes are weird. I'm weird. I have a lot of fun. So I think everything is possible, even the impossible. And so I say connect to other weirdos. If people are thinking you're weird where you are, and I say just connect with other weirdos and keep on being weird. This tomato is sprouting. This is called vivipary. I might have said that wrong, but the seeds are actually sprouting inside of this tomato. Isn't that magical? Did you know that tomatoes could do that? It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's pretty cool. Something else that'll hold you back from these next 5 days and this magical winter garden is saying, I've never done this before. And I get it. It's a good time to know where your food comes from, to have access to food right at home, to know that your health is within your own control. I get it. It's a good time to do it. Maybe you've never done this before. Well, guess what? Today or never. That's my motto, says Mary Poppins. So it is, thank you for being here. This is about getting started, and that's what you're doing. So this is awesome. These seeds have never done this either. And look at what they're doing. They're doing a pretty phenomenal job. So just like the tomato, sometimes seeds on a strawberry can sprout magically on the outside of the fruit because they just know what to do. All right. So keep your feelers out there for magical things to emerge. And the 5th way not to kill your winter garden before it gets started is to listen to normal people. So here's the thing about growing food. We've been growing food for generations and generations, and there's always a new finding. And so I encourage you to keep your mind open. And if everybody's saying one thing and saying, well, this is how it always works, think about it and say, you know, nature is pretty diverse. Nature is really diverse. And there might be other things that she sends our way. So my answer to listening to normal people is, do you want ordinary or do you want extraordinary? I say build this magical momentum with a group of weirdos and see what happens. It's going to be an adventure, folks. All right. So let's talk about your next steps, and then we'll talk about tomorrow. So here's your step tonight. And today was a little bit long because I wanted to share a greater vision for what's possible, and I wanted to get you started. So you're going to be in the next couple days sprouting some lentils with us. This is what a lentil plant looked like. Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? We don't even recognize where half of our food comes from a lot of times. Kids really don't know this stuff. And so lentils, one of the things people don't know about lentils is that the majority of it comes from Canada and India, producing 58% of the combined world total. And they like to be grown in cooler temperatures. All right. So what you're going to be doing, and you may have sprouted lentils before, I encourage you to do this with us for the next couple of days and see what unfolds, because we're going to be doing things a little bit differently and you're going to want to do it with us. So this first day is going to look very similar to other things that you've seen before in sprouting lentils, but tomorrow we're going to get a little bit more wonderful with water. But for today, here's what you need. You need a jar, you need clean water, you need lentils. I sprouted 1.5 cups, But after I sprouted a cup and a half, I realized that probably a cup would feed a family of 4 if you want to. I've got plenty of leftovers with a cup and a half. You want a bowl and some kind of colander or strainer that you can use to strain out the water from the lentils. So that's everything you need. And I recommend for tomorrow, you're going to want a Post-it and a pen as well, or something to write on and something to stick on that jar. So that's all you need to get started. So your first day, here's what you're going to do. Hopefully, I'm going to pull this off for just 1 second. My hair is every which direction. Okay, so hopefully by now you have grabbed your lentils, but if you haven't, I recommend French lentils or green lentils, the ones with the skin still on them. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a cup or a cup and a half of these lentils, and you're going to put them in a bowl with clean water, and you can add the same amount of water. So if you add a cup of lentils, a cup of water, cup and a half of lentils, a cup and a half of water, and it's going to float a little bit, stir it in, let it soak for 8 hours. And what's going to happen after 8 hours is that there might be some bubbling and fizzing. That's okay. Sometimes those are signs that the beans are just releasing air out of the beans. It's totally fine. It's all good. And it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does happen. After 8 hours, all the water is going to disappear, and you're going to have plump lentils. So if your lentils were like this in the container, they're going to be like this. They're going to be double the space. So you want to make sure you have space in your container for twice as much lentils as you have. All right, so after 8 hours of soaking, I recommend you go to bed at night, you start soaking, you wake up and you stop the soaking process because you got your 8 hours of sleep and it's time to rinse them. That's my easy trick to remember, to actually rinse them. So then you rinse them. And I like to put them under a faucet and rinse off any of the, you might find a little bit of brownish water just to remove that bacteria and anything that's there. And then through the strainer, and then put that colander into a bowl to allow any excess moisture to come through the bottom. And then I would recommend rinsing every 12 hours, which means twice a day. So basically I rinse once in the morning and I rinse once at night. And that should be good for your first 24 hours. So you're basically going to soak for 8 hours and then you're going to rinse every 12 hours. All right. And it's going to look like this to start with. There's not going to be anything sprouting yet. It's just going to basically look like plump lentils to start with. Easy enough. So this is your first day. And like I said, if you've done this before, I highly recommend that you do it again with us, because tomorrow we're going to take this up a notch and do something that you've never done. Okay, so today, real quick to wrap up, get on out there, get the materials you need, the lentils, start soaking, and get ready for tomorrow and join us back here again. Tomorrow will be shorter because now we've covered the big stuff. Tomorrow's going to be shorter. We're going to cover wonderful water tomorrow, and you're going to be seeing a trick about water that's going to change the way that you garden forever, and it's going to improve the quality of your food and your life and your health. You're not going to want to miss it. I can't wait to see you there, and take care for tonight. Bye, everybody.